take on Alabama?
Well, I mean, God dog, they're Alabama. You know,
This is to me the best Saban Alabama team going into the season.
That's a big statement.
I know it is, but they hadn't had a quarterback like Tua, in my opinion.
No,
I hadn't been that high on any of their quarterbacks, but I am high on Tua.
Okay, so let's go ahead and touch on this. One thing that has been said about Saban is he has been willing to change a little bit with the times. You know, remember 4 or 5 years ago he was trying to get the up-tempo offenses banned and all this kind of stuff. Well, now he runs a little up-tempo stuff from time to time. But is he going to be willing to turn Tua loose and let him be a playmaker? Because with that's going to be some mistakes. With that's going to be some quick 3-and-outs. With it's going to be some interceptions. He was willing to do it for a half of football because once he put him in there in the national championship game, there was no turning back. My question is he going to allow him to be who he is? And of course you're going to coach him up, but that guy seems like a gunslinger, like a Brett Favre type player. For guys like that to be most successful, you got to take
you'll remember this for sure. Which was about the last run like Alabama's on right now was Florida State's run.
Right.
Remember our quarterbacks from 87 to 91. We had Casey Weldon, Brad Johnson, Chip Ferguson. Guys that fit the same mold of these Alabama quarterbacks.
Right.
And then we started Charlie Ward in 92. And Bobby didn't turn him loose.
Right.
First 5-6 games of the year, didn't turn him loose. He had, I think, 18 interceptions in 5 games.
Something ridiculous.
We're about to lose against Georgia Tech. He turns him loose.
But he didn't have a choice.
He didn't have a choice, just like Alabama and Nick Saban last year. But he didn't go back after he turned him loose.
Well,
he never took the reins off.
They kind of went back and forth a little bit for a few games. They went in that Miami game and they were conservative.
Well, after that Georgia Tech game, after the fourth quarter Georgia Tech, they never went conservative again. It was wide open from that point until he graduated. Until his national championship game against Nebraska. That's the next time he put the reins back on him.
Right.
So I'm thinking Saban's going to handle it similar to Bobby. You don't take when you got a horse, you let him run.
You're saying, but you also said 4 or 5 games he didn't let him run.
But once he saw what he had.
So you're saying at this point Saban sees what he has?
I think so. I do see what you're saying because Charlie he did have to come bring us back in about 2 or 3 games, and Bobby still went back to the eye. Went back to the eye. So you're right. It did take him doing it, and you're right. If he turns the ball over early, several games, I could see because you've got a proven winner on the bench.
Well, this is what Saban's going to know. He's got 2 of the 10 best running backs in the country. He's got 1 of the 3 or 4 best offensive lines in the country. He's probably going to have the best defense in the country, or at least one of the top 3 defenses in the country.
I mean, yeah.
He can win a national championship without having a superstar quarterback. He can.
I think he thought that last year, and he turned out he was wrong. I think the same thing this year. I think he may think he can do it. I don't think he's got the team to win if he don't start Tua. I mean, he's got the team to win. I'm not
saying not start Tua, but I'm saying rein him in. So I'm saying you got to look at it how. I'm not saying Coach Saban's going to do this because one of the reasons he's been so good is he's been willing to kind of take some chances. Let's say, the first big game they play in, Tua throws 2 picks in the first half. All right? Is he going to want to pull him? Is he going to want to just say, we're just going to run the ball and do what I know we can do? These are the type of things that will happen.
He knows how to win a football,
and they can win. I mean, look.
They can win doing that for sure.
You just said you haven't been high on any of their quarterbacks, and we've never seen anybody have a run like Alabama's had.
That's a good point.
I mean, you talk about Florida State, we're Florida State fans. It's not apples to apples because the playoff system now makes it different than before the playoff system. So you can't. It's not exactly the same, but the prolonged greatness of every single year, it's simple.
What's more impressive to me about Nick Saban is he's not doing this with great quarterbacks. If you look at the Nebraska run in the mid-'90s, they had Scott Frost and Tommy Frazier. Tommy Frazier for the majority. They did it with great running backs. And now Bobby Bowden had a run of 14 years, but when you look at the quarterbacks of those 14 years, they were 2 Heisman winners. Cannell played in the NFL, was good. Brad Johnson, Super Bowl winner. None of these quarterbacks Saban's coach really have been on that level.
Well, they haven't been on Charlie Ward's level for sure. And
or Leakey or Frazier.
Well, but see now, Frazier was the perfect quarterback for that system. Well, that's what I'm telling you. For the most of this time, what Nick Saban has wanted is a quarterback that wouldn't turn it over and that could, convert some third downs and allow his running game and his defense to win. That's been what they've done. So they haven't needed a quarterback to. My question is, since he doesn't need it, because he doesn't need it, is he going to be willing to do it? I know this from a fan of a team that's not Alabama. I hope he doesn't turn him loose. Because
as a fan of college football, I hope he turns him loose.
Well, I see what you're saying, but no, I don't think anybody, if that kid plays as good as he can play, I don't think anybody can beat Alabama.
I don't either.
They got better players at every,
And now, to me, for the first time, they got a trigger man that can get it to them.